At this time, Sister Jackie Hampton would come and she would share her personal testimony with us. Thanks to Pastor Jordan in his absence, Reverend Peoples, and College Hill for allowing us to have this time. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Claudia. Thank you, Mission Circle number 1. Somebody prayed for me, had me on their mind, took a little time and prayed for me. I'm so glad. I told Satan, get thee behind, for somebody prayed for me. To Reverend Peoples, Minister Brinson, officers of College Hill Missionary Baptist Church, members, visitors, friends, and my fellow breast cancer survivors. A few Sundays ago, I was approached by Sister Claudia Henderson regarding Mission Circle number 1, recognizing College Hill's breast cancer survivors. She wasn't just reminding me of what had become an annual event, but rather, she was asking me if I would share my experience as a breast cancer survivor. Just as I so often do, without really thinking of what's expected of me, I said yes. And afterward, I wanted so badly to suggest someone else. But I'd given my word, and my word has always been my bond. You see, church family, I have always been open to speaking on any subject that I knew a little bit about. But when it came to my bout with breast cancer, I wanted to keep quiet. And maybe, just maybe, that is why I must admit, many of the details of my journey with breast cancer has become a blur. What hasn't become a blur, however, is the reality of so many women who are still suffering with breast cancer, and the memory of many of my dearest friends that have succumbed to cancer, to include several of our very faithful College Hill members. But I know sometimes God chooses the best to be with Him. And our faith has taught us to accept His will, not our will. It was in the year 2000 when I received the news from my doctor after having my annual mammogram that it showed a lump on my breast, and I needed to schedule a biopsy as soon as possible. I was cool. I did not break down. So I scheduled the biopsy, and it was indeed cancerous. My doctor said it would be best if I scheduled surgery as soon as possible. I'm not sure if that's when it became a blur, but my best advice, ladies, under such situations, and men, is taking someone with you in case you receive this type of news. Because after the doctor stated I had cancer, I'm not sure what else he said. I'm a pretty independent person, but had I had someone there with me on that day, perhaps they could have navigated the conversation for me and could explain what else was being said after that point, and even ask questions on my behalf. Because I'll tell you, my mind was on Jesus. I must have been deep in prayer. But guess what? I left that doctor's office as calm and cool as anyone could under those circumstances. The news did take me back 16 years prior. It was in May of 1986. I was a sales manager at Xerox Corporation, and one morning, I had obligated myself to ride with the sales exec from Mobile, Alabama, to assist with a sales call at Mercy Hospital in Vicksburg. I remember feeling a bit tired that morning as I left home, I even complained to God that I was tired and I needed a little rest. I also prayed for a successful sales call. God granted me both. We had a very successful sales call, and on the way back to Jackson, God granted me more rest than I would have ever asked for. As we were driving home and discussing the meeting we had experienced with the administrators at Mercy Hospital, I remember suddenly looking up, screaming out, "Watch that car, Bernard, someone is driving on the wrong side of the highway." We had a head-on collision that landed us both back at Mercy Hospital. I had sustained several injuries, including a broken leg. God gave me more rest than I ever would have asked for. I remember thinking, be careful what you ask for. God granted me 8 months of rest while I was healing, but I thank Him every day for sparing my life. I never doubted God then, and I didn't doubt Him when I received my diagnosis 16 years ago of cancer. In meeting with the surgeon, I first had to make a choice between having a lumpectomy, the removal of the tumor and lymph nodes in the armpit, or a mastectomy, removal of the breast. I was given pros and cons of each, and after deep prayer, I chose to have the lumpectomy. I thought about my mom and my 3 sisters after being diagnosed with cancer. I was the youngest, and God chose me. But deep inside, I was glad He chose me because I figured I could handle it better than they. And yet I knew they would have my back. I had faith. I had family. I had friends. And thank God I had College Hill Baptist Church. My biggest concern was sharing the news with my children. My son James was away attending Davidson College in North Carolina, and my daughter Angel was working in New Orleans for Jefferson Parish School System. I didn't want to frighten them as I had done on the day of that head-on collision, even though at that time they were very, very young versus being young adults at the time of my cancer diagnosis. And then there was my oldest sister, Carolyn. I was more concerned about her taking the news than I was about my loving parents, my sisters Gwen and Paulette, and my dear brothers Emmett and Kelvin. At that time, Carolyn was teaching at Rowan Middle School. She recalled recently that when my husband told her I had cancer, she immediately left school, rushed to her church, New Hope Baptist Church, ran to the chapel, and prayed for me. Had I known at that time, I would have prayed harder for her. But I had the surgery. I took the prescribed medication. I took a few weeks off from work. I had physical therapy. I returned to work, and then 5 weeks after the surgery, I started radiation. I went every morning at 7:15 for 6 consecutive weeks before starting work at 8:00 a.m. By this time, I'd had a career change. Radiation reduces the chance of cancer coming back. It was painful, but tolerable. I refused to dwell on it. This time, I knew this unexpected news on my health was not a result of feeling tired. It came upon me when I was energetic and confident. I accepted it was God's plan for me for whatever reason. I never questioned Him, and I kept the faith. All I wanted was to be healed and keep serving Him. I don't take for granted that today I am cancer-free. Each year, I prayerfully continue to get my annual mammograms, believing that God will see me through. I will never give up on God. I will never lose faith, for God is the healer. I don't mean to play it down, because cancer is very serious, and we must be diligent with our health. We must self-examine ourselves, get annual mammograms, and then live the life God has for us. And as for me, that lump was merely another bump in the road. Thank you.
With us. 'Cause sometimes I did like the part you said we need to have someone in the room with us so that we can, when we are going through things, we just hear the diagnosis. We don't hear what else the doctor said. But we need someone with us, and that was a blessing to me. It's now time for our tithes and offering. It's now